We now know that the U.S. markets are still feeling queasy over the twists and turns of Trump's trade war. This after China announced overnight it was raising its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports to, get this, some 125%. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Eric Faddis, political strategist right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, Eric.
Good to be with you, Guy.
All right, let's talk about one of the big stories of the day. In this case, U.S. consumer sentiment plummets to its second lowest level on records. Get this, Eric, going back to 1952. Consumer sentiment plunged 11% this month. That's the second lowest reading, as I stated, since the early 1950s. The question I got to ask you is, what the heck is going on?
I think America and Americans are used to kind of the status quo. They're used to kind of things going along as normal. In other countries, that's not always how it goes. Here, with the Trump administration, we've seen transformative measures that have really resulted in swings economically. People seeing their investments going down and up, and it's volatile and disconcerting for many. And so I think that they're just not used to this. It's been a while since this has been the state of our economic climate in America, and so it's sort of new, and people are still feeling it out.
Yeah, a number of financial CEOs now stating we are either embarking on a recession or have quite honestly already entered one. It's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out. One of the other topics a lot of folks want to keep a close eye on surrounds China, who in essence has raised its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports from, well, 84% to 125%. Eric, is it fair to say the tit for tat continues between the U.S. and China?
I think it's very fair to say, it's characteristic of a trade war, and the numbers we're seeing are really getting kind of silly, and as silly as they are alarming. They're really rising. How high can these go? Are we going to be having 300% tariffs on China? We're just going to keep going up. I don't think that's sustainable for either market, and I think there has to be some kind of resolution. Hopefully some negotiations are embarked upon soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some of the happenings that are currently happening overseas. In this case, we're going to switch gears to what's taking place in Iran. We know that, well, Iran has set strict terms ahead of crucial talks it will hold with the U.S. on its nuclear program. There are major red lines, if you will, including threatening language by the Trump administration and excessive demands regarding Iran's nuclear program. What's going to happen with all of this, Eric?
The Trump administration has said that they really just want complete dismantlement of Iran's nuclear program. Of course, Iran is not in favor of that, but Iran is in a compromised position. The Houthis have been damaged, Hezbollah has been damaged. There are new sanctions that the U.S. just imposed on Iranian entities. And so because of all that, Iran should come to the table and see if there is some kind of non-proliferation and supervision measure that would be acceptable to both sides to avoid some sort of escalating military conflict.
Yeah, I got to tell you, there's enough to worry about in the world. That is not another issue we really need to worry about. At least hopefully that could be handled. Eric, I got a question for you. Ever pay a visit to Greenland?
Have not.
Yeah,
no.
You and me both. But I hope to visit it one day. In this case, I know once I arrive, well, a U.S. commander in Greenland will likely not be there. Following Vice President J.D. Vance's visit to the island in late March, we now know that, well, the top commander for the U.S. has now been removed. Why? Apparently, she sent out an email stating that the president's or vice president's actions, if you will, and comments during the trip weren't actually accepted by her. In essence, she was removed. Is this a case of if you don't agree with the administration, you're going to be kicked to the curb?
The administration has taken many measures to eliminate folks who disagree with their policy and the measures they want to implement. There was a time where, you wanted folks with different perspectives, different ideas to bring that to the marketplace of ideas, and we can all agree upon the best course of action. That does not appear to be the approach for the Trump administration. It seems like they want folks to fall in line, and if you don't, you might be ousted.
All right, we'll end with this, Eric, and that is Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer says the GOP budget resolution, well, it was adopted by the House yesterday. As he puts it, it will, in essence, explode the U.S. deficit, bankrupt America, slash entitlement programs, and add, get this, some $52 trillion, and that is with a T to the national debt. Bottom line, Democrats are heaping mad, Eric. What happens next?
Presently there is kind of a rift in the GOP, especially regarding this budget proposal. And so I think Democrats could try to capitalize on that and say, hey, look, the GOP says that they want to limit government. They want to decrease the national debt. This is going the opposite direction. Perhaps there could be some bipartisan coalition that comes together to try to combat this from going through. But I think that's unlikely.
You know my saying, can't we all get along? And in this case, always get along with that guy right there, Mr. Eric Faddis, yet again, political strategist, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Make it a great weekend, sir.
Likewise.